Computing target speed by allowing the masts of a given height to double in the periscope. This is a relatively obscure procedure. However, it is mentioned specifically in the 1943 U-Boat Commander's Handbook, and it is in keeping with the typical doctrine of U-boat commanders to submerge only when they've reached a 0-degree angle on bow from the target. Of course, a 0-degree angle on bow means you're directly or roughly directly on the target's course line. The advantage of this approach is it provides the commander with the most flexibility in the attack and the approach, as well as mitigates the risk of the target outmaneuvering the attack. So, from this position, a method was devised by which target speed could be calculated as long as a reference height, that is a mast height or some other point on a target ship, could be known or very accurately estimated. The procedure is simple. The commander would note the number of tick marks in the scope, vertical tick marks in the scope the target was showing at a particular moment, and would start a timer and wait until the number of tick marks doubled in the scope, and would stop the time at the moment these doubled. The calculation from that point is relatively straightforward, but it is even more straightforward with the TADS computer, and we will demonstrate an example now. Let's assume that we have dived in front of a target that has a mast height of 35 meters. We are ready to perform this calculation and compute the target speed, and we note at that moment that the target is showing 2.5 tick marks tall in the periscope. So we know at that point we will start the timer. It is also known that we are on a reciprocal course and moving at 3 knots to approach the target. So having started the timer at 2.5 tick marks, we simply wait until the target fills up 5 tick marks, that is double the height. At that point, we will calculate the range that corresponds to those 5 tick marks at the target's height and perform a simple calculation to derive the target speed. So let's assume that it took 9.5 minutes, 9 minutes and 30 seconds for the 5 mark to be reached. That is, it took 9.5 minutes for the target size to double in the periscope. At that point, we do the following. Let's compute the range to start with. 35 meters. We've done this before. We'll use the 3500 on the distance scale, and we'll divide it by 5, like so. Now, the range would be 700. However, we know that the magnification we're using is 6, and so therefore we have to multiply by 4. So we read off at the 4 instead. The range is 2,800 meters. So we know that the number of minutes is 9.5 minutes. Well, we need to convert that to a seconds figure, and so it's as simple as aligning 950 with the pointer, like so, 9.5, and reading off at the 60 the number of seconds, 570 seconds. So then, all we simply do is divide the range of 2,800 by the number of seconds, 570, like so, and at the reference line we read off the speed. Now it's not 0.9, we need to use common sense. It is actually almost 9.6 knots. A very important last step in this calculation is that we need to account for our own speed as well, because we are contributing to the closure rate. So 9.6 knots is the total closure rate. However, we need to subtract our own speed from this figure. This is an extremely important step. So if we know we have been traveling 3 knots for the whole time, we simply take 9.6 minus 3, and we get a target speed of 6.6 knots.